Hello and welcome back to another episode of Talking Baldocks with me, Neil Baldock, and
Me, Matt Baldock.
good stuff. We've both remembered our names after a short break from recording these. Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so this week, I thought we was so as some people know, we host a dinner for estate agents. Everyone just comes, chats and has a good time generally. But one of the things after that is we've got a WhatsApp group, don't we? And people are always asking for advice and help.
Mm.
Um, and one thing I've noticed is while the policy for the dinner is no sales, no suppliers, no speeches, and quite a few of my supplier friends give me a little bit of friendly shit about that. They actually get spoken about loads. So the dinner's actually good for them. So what I've noticed in the group chat quite recently, and actually in a couple of others I'm in, people are asking who uses this, does anybody use that? Um, in the Federation of Independent Agents group chat this morning, somebody was asking about AML solutions. So I just thought maybe it might be helpful if we kind of gave a rundown of what we use in our business. So, if anyone doesn't know, we're a full service residential sales and residential lettings business. So yeah, I just thought it might be helpful if we maybe ran through kind of what we use and what we find that what works for us.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. So I think we've obviously got different bits of tech on the sales and the letting side, and then obviously we also do HMO management in a big way as well. So we've kind of got different bits of tech across all of those areas of the business. So maybe we should break it down into sales, lettings, and HMO. I think one of the important things I always say to people is with prop tech is you've got well, number one, you've got to be very careful you don't get duplicates of it, and you've got
Yes.
multiple softwares doing the same thing, and so you should keep it under review at all times. And what we're guilty of sometimes, even ourselves as a business, is because we like people at the suppliers. You sign up to their piece of prop tech, and then someone else comes along with a similar one, and you like them, so you sign up to that as well. And then you think, well, I've got two things doing the same job and just burning cash in my wallet. So that's one thing I would say to people, just bear in mind. But the other thing is you got to view them as I always say to people, you got to view them as like a power tool. So they're not there just because you've got a piece of tech in your business. It's not there to do the job for you. It's
No.
just to speed up the rate at which you can do that job. And I think that's really important because sometimes people blame the prop tech. Oh, it didn't do this for me, um, or this went wrong. And it's like, well, yeah, because just because we gave you something that can make your job quicker doesn't mean you don't have to do the job anymore. If that makes sense. So, like, we've had it. We say to our property managers sometimes, one of the things we have is good Lord. We've had it since they were created. It's kind of a big integral part of our business. But it's just because it produces the tenancy agreement. I say to the property manager, it's still your job to check that tenancy agreement. It doesn't, you can't blame the prop tech for getting something wrong because previously to having that, you would have had to draw up that tenancy agreement, and at that point, you would have checked it. So just because you've now got a tool to do it, doesn't mean your responsibility for checking these things goes away. So yeah, that's just my before we go into what we've got, that's my sort of my little rant on how to use it.
No, mate, you're entirely correct. I was with a consulting client once, and they asked me to sit down with their team, really. And I was sat down with the team without the owner or the principal there, and we were just trying to work out. We were a couple of exercises. It was number one. It was we were going through a cost exercise. Like why was the business earning so much money but not making that much profit? What the cost of sale and that kind of thing, and also the team and what were the team thinking about it? Because again, sometimes as owner operators, as you say, we'll meet somebody at one of the conferences. We like them, we like the tech. We just chuck it in and go, right, use that now. And the team is out there going, how do I use this? And then again, if you without, I don't really like the phrase, but if you're a one man band, for want of a better phrase, and you're just going to be at the coalface all the time, fine, use it. But if you're like us that aren't, we're not doing the doing all the time, you actually have to explain to your team how it's going to work. And also, you've got to listen to your team's feedback a bit. But so I was with this company, and I mean, they had over 20 bits of things they're using. They had four options for AML.
Mm,
And every one of them had a vague difference, but ultimately they did AML. And I say the owner was like, well, yeah, but I like that bit of that and that, and the team were just like, we don't know which one we need to use.
mm,
So actually it can, yeah, great analogy in the power tools, but it can be confusing if you kind of have too many, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And go from there. And the other thing, it probably leads on. We could start, maybe where we get leads in from. But I saw something in property industry this morning. Some I don't know. People seem to write these water is wet articles stating the bloody obvious and get published. I don't really understand, but somebody's published an article saying that instant val leads, the automated valuations, aren't accurate. It's
Yeah,
like,
I
well,
saw
yeah,
that.
no, of course they're not because it's a machine doing it. Weirdly, it was saying they undervalued everything. Well, I've always found they go a bit over the top. But again, this survey had said that a frightening amount of estate agents rely on these automatic valuation tools to give them the values that they're going to go and present to a client. And it's just like, what are you doing? It's very much it's a tool to use, but it definitely is not the job because if the machines can value and get the prices and set the pricing strategies, then we won't be needed.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly, and that's why you've got to, yeah, you got to pick and choose what you use and what you take from it, um, and also you've got to make sure, yeah, as you say, it works within your business and it is actually an effective thing because ultimately tech is really there to speed up the job. It's not
Yes.
really, it's not necessarily there to replace people, but it's there to make the people you have quicker, more efficient, prevent you as a business from having to employ more people if you can put a tech solution in place. Um, and that's yeah, that's why we're never scared of it, and our team are never scared of it because it's not like we're trying to replace people. We've got our people. We just want to make them more efficient, make their job easier, be able to deliver more, um, and things like that. And as a business, obviously, we don't want to employ. I mean, we love employing people and we'll employ as many as we need to, but we don't want to, and every business, because of the way the government's gone with their national insurance hikes and everything else, there isn't too much incentive to just keep on employing people.
Yeah, employing for employing's sake, you can't just keep chucking more people in the office and assuming that's going to make you more money. It just doesn't
Yeah.
work like
I think the point, sorry, I was trying to make, because again, I went on a bit of a rant there, was that what what sometimes happens is you end up with the people plus the tech,
yeah.
or too many people plus the tech, and actually in that scenario, you've got to look at it and say, well, which one's going to work out better for me?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so should we run through some of the stuff that we use then, and then sort of what we like about it?
Yeah, so if we kind of, I guess, do a vague journey in terms of like capturing clients and then through to the lets and the sale and obviously it will splinter off with the sales and the lets, but just talking about the instant sales. So we're very heavy on social media. So we use Facebook and Instagram, right? There are
Yeah,
two main sources. And I mean, we've been using Facebook for very early on. We do very well out of that. In particular, a lot of people keep trying to put Facebook down and saying it's right, but Facebook definitely isn't dead. There's loads of business to be had out of that. But then in conjunction with that, we obviously run paid adverts. So we use Pull On to run our Facebook ads. We run them for sales and for lettings, and then we use ValPal, and then that goes into MovePal.
yeah, yeah. And then we've even now testing out the AI answering some of those leads as well, aren't we? And picking them up and responding to leads very quickly for us.
Yeah, and again, it's not about, the AI can just phone people quicker and it can phone more people than a human possibly could. And it's about weeding out the really high quality leads. What we want is we want human beings having quality conversations. So the AI could do that. So imagine if every conversation you had as a negotiator or as a valuer was somebody who was genuinely interested in selling. And that just can't happen day to day. But by using the AI to phone all the leads, it can kind of cut the wheat from the chaff, if you like, and then present you and go, right, these are the people you really want to be speaking to. These are the people you just want to leave on a nurture journey going through there. So I think that's so it's very early days for us on the AI side of things. The AI thing we probably won't talk about too because it's only going to get better and better and it will come. But that's about the only AI thing we're really using at the moment, isn't it? There. And the other thing we use in terms of getting leads for sales, really mainly, so is Spectre. So I use Spectre. leveraging every property you get. So we use it to write to on market properties. Uh, and I've always said I never bother until I do five. So I've got to try and count now: 5, 7, 9, 11. Because everybody's writing to everybody. Usually they're using the standard letters. They're going out on the even weeks. So if you can put yours on an odd week, you've probably got more chance of actually it not being with all the pile of other letters. And the other thing I have to impress people: do not use the generic standard letters. So, and that's no disrespect to the letters that spec to their templates, but communication through all these mediums, we've said this before in other podcasts, has to be your tone of voice. So the video they see has to sound like you, the letter they get has to sound like you. So when you get in the living room, it all makes sense to them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think
Um,
that's that is an important point to make, and that's again, it's like using the prop tech but fitting it into your business.
yes.
All these products are off the shelf because it would cost too much to develop them yourself, but they can be tweaked to your internal processes and your internal tone of voice and language and everything else.
Yeah, precisely. And also, you don't have to go after everything. So look at your market and what you want. So we've, made a decision recently. Flats and leasehold are becoming incredibly difficult, A, to sell, and B, to actually get through to completion. We've got a big problem in the leasehold market, I think, probably nationwide, and they tend to be the lower end of the fee. So do you want to be spending, your pennies on
Mm.
postage? Then, so look at the properties you really want to sell, look at the ones that are going to give you the return, the ones that you're good at selling, and only target those. You don't have to write to every property on the market.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. And that is a really good point because when a lot of people will be doing that, they'll be writing to every property on the market and not understanding that some of those properties are actually loss making for them and actually not profitable. And we've, as you say, we've done that exercise recently and worked out where we need to be in terms of our minimum fee to actually be profitable, not just turning over revenue, but actually make a profit. And it was quite surprising. And so what would be even more of a kick in the teeth is if you then find out you're actually spending money writing to things that are going to be unprofitable. So you're losing even more money on it because you're spending money to get it to make you no money. So, but people will be doing that because, as estate agents, we're trained to just go after everything and get as much market share as you can and not even think about the profit. Well, when it's your own business, things change and you need to start thinking actually I don't care how big the market share is. I mean, obviously, you do care about that. That is one kind of indicator. And if you can grow your market share with the right fee levels, then you'll make more profit anyway. But you need to start thinking about some different things and concentrating on profit. So yeah, obviously you want to direct your marketing spend to what is going to be profitable.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, ultimately, if you list 10 properties at 0.75% and I list five properties at 1.5%, you've got double my market share, but we're earning the same money, right? So
Exactly.
that's the way to do it. So, and the other thing I think with Spectre that I like, so we send kind of like postcards out when we're transacting on properties, because I like a postcard because it's not in an envelope, so people actually, even if they pick up, put it in the bin. But that's why I like leaflets. They're still subconsciously seeing your branding. But something I work with on, with other clients is some people, oh, we haven't really got lots of stock on, so we haven't got lots of people to write to. But you can really leverage every house you get. So anytime you list a property, you can write. So I do. So if I list, for argument's sake, a four-bed detached, I know that's likely to, my buyer's probably going to be in a three-bed terrace. So I write to all three-bed terraces in the vicinity saying, hey, I've just listed this property. Would you like to look at it? We also do that to ones that are on the market, because I'm not saying, oh, I know you're on the market, but just pretending they're not, saying, look, we've listed this. Don't know if you're in the market or not. Would you like to maybe view it? So that person's then thinking, Christ, I wonder if my agent's doing that. So when you've listed it, you do that. When you put it under offer, obviously you can do your sold in your streets. When you've exchanged on it, you can do that. And if you want to, when you've completed on it, you can do congratulations, you've got a new neighbor. So out of every property you list, if you're struggling, again, don't get me wrong, if you're listing loads of houses, you probably might not want to spend all that money. But if you're just starting out, or you're not listing that many and you're thinking, I don't have the content to put out there, every listing can be four pieces of mail that you can send out to the area. So you can definitely do that there. Um, then another thing we use, which we have for both sales and for lettings, and it powers the kind of stats on our website is Data Loft.
Yes, yeah.
So data loft, as I say, if you go on the Charles David Casson website and you want to look at the market stats, they're kind of constantly updated. Data loft power that, and it enables us to take out some kind of actual facts and figures. But the other thing, it's not just about. I mean, it will do national stats, but I personally don't really understand the point of national stats because I said in the post the other day, what's happening in Aberystwyth and what's happening in Chelmsford are not linked. But you can take out what's really happening in your local areas, and you can go hyper local with it. So you don't have to have just like the CM1 postcode. You can have the CM16 postcode, for instance. But it also shows you the demographics of people because it takes data from the census and things like that. So when you're out, meeting a landlord, for instance, you can and they say, well, what's the type of person you think is going to live here? We would go, well, I think it would be a nice family, but you can actually show them some data and say, well, look, 40% of tenants in this area are single people.
Mm,
So if they, oh, I don't want a single person, okay, well then you're going to lose 40% of the market. Is that what you're kind of happy to do? And I think landlords in particular, we always say facts tell and stories sell, but I think landlords in particular like data maybe more than home sellers.
mm. Yeah, well, their mindset is more of a commercial kind of mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, no, most definitely. So we've got so let's say so we've done some marketing, we've done some touting, we've got evaluation. The next thing we use for both sales and for lettings is Akaboom.
Yeah, yeah, and we get fantastic feedback on that, and I think it's fair to say we've absolutely won listings on the back of having that digital presentation go out to people.
Yeah, 100%. Akaboom, out of everything we use, is possibly my favorite. I do like it. But again, if people don't know, so what it does, it will send out your pre-val, it will do everything for your presentation if you want, and then it does your post-val. Complete transparency, I don't use it on the valuation.
Hmm. Yeah,
I'm not presenting with a laptop kind of guy. I don't think you are either.
no, I've never ever done a presentation like that. So yeah, good point. Obviously it does have that function. You can use a presenter, but no, I only use it for the pre-val. Once I've done the valuation to send my presentation, the valuation letter, and everything else like that, and then to nurture it from there.
Yeah. For me, it's the main feature I like of it is the fact that you can record a video. I mean, you can have one go out on the pre-val, but the post-val video I think is so important because again, let's say everyone gets three valuations, they're going to get three emails or, they might get a slightly snazzy presentation. Um, but if you can just record a quick, I think it's only up to like 90-second video. Hey Dave, great to see you again. Lovely to meet Millie the dog. People just reference those little points that are important to people, or
Mhm.
what a fantastic kitchen. I can see why you spend so much time in there. On the appointment, you should be working out what's important to the person. Then you can reference that. The other thing, and the thing I think where it really wins is a lot of the time we don't meet both decision makers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, if Mrs. is at home and, Mr.'s out or vice versa, they come home, and what did the agent say? And usually you get, well, that one said, 301%, that one said 320 and 0.75%, that one said 302%. And that's what they get. Whereas actually, what I will do in the video is I'll be like, hey, Dave, great to see you. Tracy, sorry we didn't get to meet. What a lovely home you had. Da, da, da. And again, that just brings it a little bit more to life. And we say people by people, you're just taking it off the page a little bit. So that's the bit I really like. But for people that don't have Akaboom and are ready to commit to, the kind of the cost of Akaboom, you can still do that video, right? So you can use Loom, you can use BombBomb. Again, you can have the all singing, all dancing packages, but if you're not at a stage in your business where you want that and you want to try it, there are always workarounds. So, but for me, if you want to do that, if you're doing valuations, video is really, really key.
Mm. Yeah, agreed. I mean, and the other thing is, like, so I did a sales valuation the other week on a kind of bit of an unusual house, to be honest, in terms of the extension, the road it was in. There's not really any comparables, etc. Um, and I kind of, and I, and the seller bought into what I was saying at the time, and I was very honest with them about the fact that there isn't very many comparables, and it's a very difficult property to price, and I gave probably a lower valuation than than the other agent. In fact, I know I gave a lower valuation than the other agent did. Um, and I think the seller bought in at the time that my valuation was pretty realistic and the reasons I justified that. However, when I came back and did a little bit more research and thought about it, I thought to myself, well, you probably could, um, because there's not a lot of stock on that road, it's quite exclusive, etc. There's reasons why we could probably justify giving it a try for them. Um, so I told them that on the video. And if I hadn't have sent them a video, what they would have thought was I've just gone back on everything I just said to them. But by sending them a video, I was able to give them a really clear explanation as to my thought process and where I've gone and where I've researched since then. And like what my feelings are now, I've got like the full picture. So yeah, I think video in any case, in your marketing, in your communication is just a fantastic tool.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, definitely. And again, even so, if you know, if you want to hold to the valuation you originally gave it, again, rather than one party telling the other one, oh, they valued it lower, you can kind of just re-go over, as you know, that one over the road sold for that, that one,
Mm.
and you can kind of just re-explain it so the other person can hear it. So, yeah, really, really powerful. So this is so listen, we've done the vow. Obviously, me and you are amazing listers, so we've been instructed. Um, you
Every
know,
time.
I've definitely been instructed. You're still chasing it. Um, so this is where the two disciplines probably split off, if you like. So if we just, I'll do sales, and then we can go through everything we use, obviously, for lettings. So I use something called Catini. Um, and what Catini does is it does our AML, it signs my contract, and it gets my property information questionnaire done, which in turn translates into the TA6 form, so I can send that out with a memorandum of sale. So I love it. I can literally onboard somebody within my end within 30 seconds. You do it on your mobile, do it on the laptop, sends them an invite, they create their file, they upload their ID, they say they digitally sign your contract, and then they fill out, it orders the title deeds as well and the title plan. And then they fill out the proper information questionnaire and puts into so it takes care of all the material information. I know material information now has kind of been done with, but I still think you should be collecting it. And then it puts into a handy link that you can send to viewers or you can print and take with you. And then again, the key bit for me is it can translate into that TA6. So when you're sending sales memos, you can say, hey, Mr. Conveyancer, here's your memos, here's your EPC, here's your title, and here's your TA6. Let's get this conveyancing moving. So that I think great. But going back to your point at the start about only as good if you use it properly, I have had people work here before where they do a tick box exercise. They send the link and then don't do anything else with it. And they don't actually track, as long as a contract signed, that's all they care about. And they're not actually checking that the person's filling out the proper information question form. And again, then it becomes useless. So it's a very good tool, but you have to monitor it and make sure it's being done properly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think yeah, it's just it's a funny thing, a human trait really. Of like as soon as you give someone something to make their life a little bit easier, they almost stop doing the job. And just going back to the power tool analogy, if I told you to dig a hole with a spade and it would take you, a couple of hours, and then all of a sudden I gave you the same task and I said I need you to dig exactly the same size hole, same depth, same width, same everything, but here's a mini digger, you'd do it in sort of 20 minutes, but you wouldn't stop. You'd still dig the same hole that I asked you to dig. So it's the same principle with this. Like I still want you to properly onboard someone. I still need all of these things, this checklist tick to make sure we're fully compliant. But I'm just giving you a piece of technology that's going to enable you to do it very quickly and cut out your administration work. Um, but as humans, sometimes like, do you know what I mean? Because we're not doing manual labour, because this is all sort of administration. People just go, "Oh, I don't need to do that anymore."
Yeah,
And that's the important thing for people to realise. That is where it's not doing the job for you; it's just making it a lot quicker.
yeah, no, most definitely. So that's probably that through sales, and then there's there's probably another bit we can talk about after. Obviously, we have then the portals, etc. But if we bounce onto lettings now, lettings I think is where we've really done well. We've been very early adopters on tech. A lot of people we may go, oh, God, I don't want to do lettings, too much work. But I feel we and you, to be fair, to credit where it's due, have boxed very clever to make sure we equip our team with the tech enabled to make the job easier, which is why we can then also do property management for other estate agents.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you're going to run a lettings business, with the amount of compliance and workload we have these days, you just have to have some tech in the business. It's just inevitable. Um, or certainly it will take a lot of stress away from you if you do implement it. And obviously what people do a lot of the time is say, oh well, um, that's very expensive or that's an extra expense. But you've got to look at what it does and sort of the bigger picture with it. So our tech stack in the lettings is yeah, obviously we have our general CRM which records a lot of things for us, but the main sort of our power tools in lettings really are Good Lord, and so we adopted that as literally from day dot when they started. And you know, to be honest, I love it. It's fantastic. You know, don't get me wrong. I think one of the things they probably struggle with and always have is sometimes getting their referencing part right, but it yeah, it works. It's fine. Just that's probably the piece they've struggled the most to get right. But in terms of the compliance, the onboarding of tenants, the speed we can do that, generating our contracts, etc. That's really good. And I've said before in interviews that I think if we didn't have Good Lord, we'd need another full-time administrator. So that definitely reduces staff spend. Um, then we move on to the payment side. So we use PayProp, which again is just like almost revolutionized my life because I used to be the one making all the payments, whether I was on holiday, not on holiday, whatever. And now we can, I mean, we collect somewhere in the region of 7 million a year in rental income. So, it's a hell of a lot of money. And we don't need a member of account staff to do it because we've got that piece of tech. We know it's very secure. We can pay people quickly. We can see in real time who's in arrears, who's not. Um, yeah, so that's and it is
I
expensive.
Yeah, well, so the story I always tell with because again I don't you use this, it's not me, and it's probably our uh, most happy. So there's a couple of bits. The story I always tell is back in those days where we used to go on holiday, we'd be in Spain or whatever, and you could only remember those days you could only get Wi-Fi in the hotel reception. You couldn't get it over
Yeah,
like the whole and you'd have to just go and take yourself off for an hour, or and just sit in reception by yourself paying rents. It's ridiculous. So it certainly made your actual life easier. But we would, I mean, the pay props one that's always talked about, and the cost of it does always come up. And don't get me wrong, if they're listening, I would enjoy a discount. Um, but I think it is the cost versus value thing, and as estate agents, we're often out there, and you have to look at that with your tech really. So I think PayProp, the amount of time it buys you back, and the amount that enables the whole team to be able to have an overview of the transactions and be able to communicate with their landlords. They're always not going, "Oh, Neil will get back to you on that. Neil will get back to you on that." It seems to be worth the money.
yeah. That's the big point. Is it enables your whole team to have an open view of the client account, and you select who has the authority to make the payments. And that's massive in terms of a customer service journey for people. Um, I think the other thing with it is, yeah, you've got to look at who you would need to employ or how many people you would need to employ if you didn't have it. Um, but again, I do think it's right for some people at certain stages of their journey. And that's the other thing to say about lots of tech is sometimes it's there to get you to a place and there. So like PayProp will enable a solo operator to grow their business substantially without having to take on accounting staff. Um, and but it could get to a size. There must be businesses out there that are at a size where it
Mm.
does become too expensive, and perhaps they would be better to have account staff. I think you'd have to get to a huge scale for that to be the case. But that could be the case. So it's always looking at it and balancing those things out. But definitely, but I think that's an investment. And if you think who we would need to employ to manage 7 million quid a year in client funds, and pay them a pension, give them holiday, etc., PayProp works out for us on that basis. I think we froze a little bit there, but did you hear most of what I had to say?
Yeah, no, I got it, mate. There was like an awkward pause after I'd finished speaking. I thought you just weren't agreeing with what I was saying. I thought this is weird, but no, it's okay. We're back. And so the next one, I suppose, for the leggings would obviously you've moved them in, something's broken. We go to fixed flow.
Yeah, so again, fixed flow, we've had that since its sort of inception, really, again. And yeah, big part of our business. I think our property managers would be lost without it. Again, there are other solutions out there, but it's just one that works for us, works very well. And I mean, we even use we have a link in with a emergency call out service that pick up calls that are reported through PayProp out of hours and things. Sorry, not PayProp, fixed flow out of hours. So that works really well for us. And yeah, I think with again with the amount of compliance, even if it's not fixed flow, you must have some sort of tracking system in place for trying to handle maintenance now.
Yeah, no, no, most definitely. So I think they're probably the three main ones for tenants journey, aren't they? Good Lord, PayProp, and fixed flow.
Yeah, they are. And I think, one thing we're always conscious of is, we've got people working on a lot of platforms. And as much as possible, that's not, we want to really, we want to try and um, condense the amount of platforms you're working on, of course. But the thing is, with those three, they all do a very specific job very well. And so that's why that works for us, because they each deal with one part of the journey very, very well, rather than having a system which deals with all parts of the journey and it's okay.
Yeah, no, no, definitely. And obviously, integrations are, with depends on the CRM you're using, but I know Akaboom will integrate, Catini will happily integrate. Good Lord, I think Good Lord have just announced an integration with Street recently.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, there's all these integrations out there, but unfortunately, nothing integrates with everything, and that's the problem. So you're always waiting for that integration to come along. But of course, technology is developing, and so those integrations are becoming more and more likely.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got obviously Glue Dog now, which we're yet to use, but I hear really good things about. That's kind of helping people do all these integrations. So yeah, look, we're approaching the 40-minute mark now, so I think that's enough. But hopefully that kind of gives people, as I say, to pretty much everything we've used, there are alternatives. So but we find we'll only ever back what we use and what we do on a daily basis. We are not being paid for this whatsoever. But as I say, if anybody does want to send me gifts, then they will be gratefully received.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
just
but we'll only ever recommend stuff that we've used, which is kind of one of the things that I like about us.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We're not going to recommend something we don't know whether it works or not. I think just the final point I just want to make is I think one thing I see in the industry a lot is as soon as a prop tech supplier, as soon as it doesn't work for them once, or it makes a slight mistake, or it's early days, they're onboarding and they're saying, "Oh, well, it's a bit of a pain and stuff." People immediately slate it or jump out of it and things like that. And I think what you've got to start doing, in my opinion, is looking at them as a partnership, not just as a supplier, and actually work with them. And actually, if you make a decision that you're going to implement that into your business, you've got to give it some time, be prepared that onboarding to anything, whether they say it's easy or not, is never easy.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of life. Um, and so, you kind of got to realize if I'm changing systems, there is going to be some short-term pain. Sometimes, it's not going to work exactly as you want to start with, and you might have to. But if you're trying to take the view that you're going to work with people, again, we've got great relationship with suppliers because we take that kind of attitude. So if we ring up and say, "Look, we're really not happy about something, we need your help," they're generally willing to help us because we've developed that relationship with them rather than just gone, oh, this is awful immediately, you know. So I just think sometimes people need to take a bit of a different view on how you view your suppliers, really. Treat it as a bit more of a partnership, actually try and develop a relationship with them, and then, but then do hold them accountable as well. If they're not willing to help you, then of course that's a different matter. I think we've got some serious internet problems today, which is
Honestly, I,
which is meaning you're
I,
sat there and I'm finished speaking.
I got sorry. The gist of it is, partnerships. As I say, these, you should work with them. They should almost be an extension of your team a lot of the times. These suppliers, and actually, we're lucky that we work in a world where a lot of the estate agency suppliers like that and because I forgot it's something called auto social. So we said we market very heavily on Facebook and on Instagram, and a lot of agents say to me, "Oh, I haven't got time to do this." So we use auto social now. We get it. Street actually own it. So if you're a street user, you probably get it. But it's very, very good for doing automatic social media posts and going out there. So for scheduling things, I think it has limitations because I think we might have overloaded it because I've just put loads of content in there and some of it's going out and some of it's not. So I think you probably can overload it. But if you just want to do a couple of posts a week, I mean, we post about 3 or 4 times a day. But if you just want to certainly do one a day, a few a week, then auto social is worth looking at.
Mm, yeah, definitely. Okay, good. Well, yeah, if anybody's got any,
So
sorry, we're talking over each other. I was just going to say, if anyone's got any questions about it, or they can always reach out to us, can't they?
yeah, they can. And the other thing also, we can't really talk about tech without mentioning kerfuffle. So if you are looking at tech, kerfuffle obviously offer an MOT. You could reach out to Simon Weil or David Mintz. But while we're on that, the Kerfuffle conference is on the 10th of July. If anybody wants to go, me and Neil have been given a code you can get a half price VIP ticket. So all you would have to do is go to the Kerfuffle conference, search up KerfuffleCon 25. And when you book your VIP ticket, use the code Baldock VIP 50 and you'll get a 50% discount on there. So if you want to learn more about a tech, that's a good place to be.
Yeah, yeah, very nice. All right, well, great episode. Sorry about the sound quality, everybody. With a couple of internet problems there. Hopefully, you can hear most of what we've said, and yeah, we look forward to the next episode. So that only leaves to say, Matt,
Oh, I've been Matt Baldock. He's been,
I've been Neil
oh, it's
Baldock.
frozen.
Right, let's try that
And
again.
that's been talking Baldock.
That's it. That's talking Bulldogs.
Right. So I've been Matt Baldock. He's been,
Neil Baldock. Yes.
oh, and that's been talking Baldock.